Hola, buenas tardes y bienvenidos a Invertir como Profesional Draco TV. Una vez más aquí en directo, haciendo ahora mismo 2 directos a la semana. Hoy tenemos como invitado Jeff Baker, CFO, director financiero de PaySign. Lo veo ya conectado, en breve le daremos paso. Como sabéis, estamos ahora en la sección de entrevistas. Este canal de YouTube lleva tiempo trayéndoos pues, a CEOs de compañías internacionales, también pues, compañías españolas, siempre que sea interesante, con la idea de que el canal es consciente, yo soy consciente, pues que el inversor particular no tiene acceso a los CEOs, a los CFOs de las empresas. Por tanto, desde Invertir como Profesional Draco TV, queremos que el inversor particular tenga acceso a través de esta iniciativa, y esta idea es para que vosotros pues preguntéis a través del chat todas aquellas preguntas que tengáis pues a compañías interesantes, como es en este caso PaySign, una compañía proveedora de compañías como Grifols y CSL, compañía en un momento muy importante, como ahora veremos en la entrevista. Por tanto, este espacio que hacemos de entrevistas, sobre todo CEOs, es para vosotros. Por tanto, de vosotros depende pues, que a través del chat, a través de preguntas vía Twitter, pues aprovechéis esta entrevista para preguntar directamente, en este caso, pues a Jeff Baker. Ya lo veo, pero antes, como siempre, ya sabéis que pues toda la información que ofrecemos aquí en Invertir con Profesional Draco TV siempre tiene un carácter totalmente educativo. Nunca representa, en ningún caso representa un servicio de análisis, de recomendación, y los inversores, vosotros siempre tenéis que hacer vuestra propia información. Yo, Kim Abril, podría tener pues, de forma directa e indirecta posiciones en los valores aquí mencionados. ¿Vale? Veo gente ya conectada. Voy a dar paso a Jeff. Jeff, hello,
Yes.
good evening.
Hello.
Okay, so first of all, thank you to accept the invitation to come here. This is an initiative because you know that private investor can have access to CFO, to the CEO of companies, especially internationals, also here in Spain. And 1 year ago, I thought, okay, why not I try to talk with the CEOs and the CFOs to come here to the channel, because I think that in Spanish, in Latin America, there are a good community of people, of investors, private investors, that they like to ask you questions about your business. And this is an initiative. So I know your company, you talk many times. So the idea is to spend 45 minutes about talking about your company. I have some questions, but let me show you in English the disclaimer. Let me see. Okay, you know that this channel, Invest Like a Professional Draco TV, is just for education, and I could directly, indirectly hold positions in the securities mentioned here. So this channel is just for educations, and each investor has to do his own investment, his own knowledge in the stock. So I think, Jeff, maybe you could start with a small introduction about PaySign, and then I have questions for you. So Jeff Baker is the CFO, Chief Financial Officer of PaySign since February 21, right, Jeff?
That's correct. And let me, before I start, obviously I have my own regulatory disclaimer that has to be read, but effectively anything that's said here may include forward-looking statements within the meaning of Section 27A of the Securities Act of 1933. As amended, and Section 21E of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934 as amended. These are all considered forward-looking statements. All statements other than statements of historical fact included in the presentation or this presentation are forward-looking statements. These forward-looking statements are based on current expectations, assumptions, estimates, projections about our business and our industry. Phrases that include that use words such as believe, anticipate, expect, intend, plan, propose, may, and other similar expressions identify forward-looking statements. In the normal course of our business, we, in an effort to keep our shareholders and the public informed about our operations, may from time to time issue certain statements, either in writing or orally, that contain or may contain forward-looking statements. Although we believe that the expectations reflected in such forward-looking statements are reasonable, we can give no assurance that such expectations will prove to have been correct. In addition, any statements or comments that refer to expectation, projections, estimates, forecasts, and other characterizations of future events or circumstances are forward-looking statements. These forward-looking statements are subject to certain risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to differ materially from those reflected in the forward-looking statements. Such factors include, among other, the inability to continue our current growth rate in future periods, that a downturn in the economy, including the result of COVID-19 and variants, as well as further government stimulus measures, could reduce our customer base and demand for our products and services, which could have an adverse effect on our business, financial condition, profitability, and cash flows. Operating in a highly regulated environment, failure by us or business partners to comply with applicable laws and regulations, changes in laws, regulations, credit card association rules, or other industry standards affecting our business, that a data security breach could expose us to liability and protracted cost and costly litigation, and other risk factors set forth in our 10-K for the year end December 31st, 2021. Except to the extent required by federal securities laws, the company undertakes no obligation to publicly update or revise any statement in this presentation, whether as a result of new information, future events, or otherwise. I hope, Quinn, we still have time for question and answers after that long discussion.
Yeah. So
gotta love the federal regulators.
I think it's the longest disclaimer that I've seen in my life. Right?
Well, that's why you have attorneys.
Yeah. So sorry, Jeff. Before talking about what's PaySign, if you can introduce yourself.
Okay, sure. So Jeff Baker, I've been at PaySign, as Clem said, since February of 2021. Prior to that, I started my career in the banking industry. I was in the loan officer training program with Bank One, now JP Morgan Chase. I went to Wall Street for 10 years, where I've covered financial technology and service companies like Jack Henry and Fiserv, Global Payments, Visa, etc. I left there and went to Global Payments, where I ran strategy, M&A, product, treasury for 8 years. I've traveled quite extensively. I bought companies all over the world for Global Payments. They're now a Fortune, I believe, 200 company. I left there and went to the largest prepaid provider in the world called Incom, where I ran mergers and acquisitions for them for 10 years. So my whole career has always been payments. And some of that on the normal bank card side, some of that and most of that in prepaid. And PaySign, as you know, is a provider of prepaid card programs and integrated payment processing services. So that's my background. And let me jump in right now real quick, and I'll just tell you a little bit about PaySign. Like I said, we provide prepaid card programs and integrated payment processing services designed to reward consumers, clients, partners, and employees. We create customized, innovative payment solutions for businesses across all industries, including pharmaceutical, healthcare, hospitality, and retail. We have a end-to-end technology that securely enables digital payout solutions and facilitates the distribution of funds for customer incentives, employee rewards, travel expenses, Per Diem, as well as reimbursements and rebates. Our solutions help lower administrative costs for companies. Allows those companies to streamline their operations and allows them to drive revenue. So that's a real quick background. We are headquartered in Henderson, Nevada, which is right outside of Las Vegas. The company was incorporated in 1995. We've been doing this, providing payment solutions in major pharmaceutical and healthcare companies and multinational enterprises for more than 20 years. So one of the things we're mainly known for are for disbursements for individuals that give plasma. Go to a plasma company, go to a plasma location, you give plasma, you get paid $50, $60, $100. Those funds are loaded onto one of our cards, and then you take those cards and you spend money at retail locations or quick service restaurants or wherever Visa is accepted. That's about 90% of our business, and the other 10% of our business is, 9% of our business is in the pharmaceutical copay business, where we sit and work with pharmaceutical companies that have drugs that if you go to the doctor and the doctor writes you a script, they help pay or supplement the copay portion of your insurance when you go to a pharmacy and fill that script. I know that's not very prevalent outside of the US, but in the US, most insurance providers cover only about 80% of the cost of a drug, and then the individual is required or asked to pay the other 20%. And what this solution does is it breaks down any financial barriers that may prohibit an individual from being able to afford a drug when they are written a script. So that's, like I said, 9% of our business, and the other 1% is just a smattering of things like we launched a prepaid a payroll card program. Recently, we've disclosed that we signed up a club provider that's going to have other prepaid products, and they have like 400 locations, and just other prepaid products where typical cash disbursements are being replaced with credit card or debit cards.
So let's focus the interview to the plasma business because right now it's 90%. But last month I was talking with different pharma companies in the US, and most of them are start to reduce commercial teams and start to use more copay with doctors, right? So I think this could be a helpful for this business for the future, right? But most pharma companies want to reduce the commercial department hearing, right? So this could be an opportunity, no? If pharma companies want to go more with the online business, no? With that.
Well, if I understand what you're asking, so on the plasma side, and there's a really good site out there. It's called the PPTA, Paul Tom Alpha, and it tells you all there is about plasma and how there's been just an evolution of more therapies where people use plasma. Plasma is obviously natural. It's a natural ingredient that comes from human beings, unlike some of the COVID drugs that came out that were created basically out of just manipulating various parts of cells and things of that nature. So, but all that being said, plasma, the United States provides over 75% of all plasma that's used worldwide. Some of the largest companies in the world are one of them is based in Australia. That's CSL. One of them is based in Spain. That is Grifols. Another one, BioLife, is based in they're in Asia. So these are global companies, but with big centers in the United States, because the United States is one of like 3 countries around the world that actually pay people to give plasma. And they if you go to Western Europe, it's not uncommon that most countries don't pay people to give plasma because they feel that that's part of your civic duty, something that you should do. But this is not something you walk in and it takes 10 minutes to do. This is an hour and a half to 2 hour process, and that's a big ask out of people to take that much time out of their schedules to give plasma. So, but that's why the U.S. is such a big provider of plasma. And, I think, and again, go to the PPTA website. There's more and more solutions that use plasma for therapies. And I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Okay, so here I discover your company because I know I'm in Barcelona, in Spain, and I'm used to talk many times with Grifols. And in each of these conversations, Grifols talk about that one of his providers was PaySign, and then I was reading some research from Connor and talking about that. So that could be interesting. So before going to the news that who is performing the business right now, let me remember that in 2011, I think, this business was a monopoly and Citigroup was the only company that is doing these services. And I think then PaySign goes to the market with a small market share, right? And then start to grow with agreements with donating centers. Right now, market share for PaySign it's 40%, 41%. His main competitor, who is Wirecard, who is a bankruptcy company, but I think a private equity both the assets of this business. So you really are working in a duopoly. So the competitive environment is really good. So my question here is, which one is the possible market share that you can capture for the future? Because you are targeting for adding 100 agreements a year, I think. Right now, at the end of 2022, it's 465 centers. But is it possible to reach 60%, for example, Jeff Baker?
Well, let me correct a couple of numbers for you. So we exited last quarter at 450 centers. It's just over 40%. There's about 1.2 million, 1,200 centers that are out there, and this website that I was telling you about is a very good place to go, and it'll give you how many centers. There's about 100 to 120 centers added a year. We think that we should be able to maintain our market share. When I first started here in February of 21, we had about 34% market share. So we've grown. You are correct that the largest provider in the space is a company called Ombi. Ombi used to be called City Prepaid. Then City Prepaid sold to Wirecard. I think everybody's pretty familiar with the fraud that occurred at Wirecard. And then Wirecard sold the business to a private equity firm, and they rebranded Ombi. So there are a few other providers in the space, but most of the market share is between us and Ombi. I gave guidance that we should continue to add 3 to 4 centers per month. Some months we may not add any, like the first of the year. January is usually slow, and then we add more during the summer months, and then it kind of tails off at the end of the year. This year, we should add around 90 total. That's because one of our customers consolidated some centers. They had grown through acquisitions, and then they had given us notice that in the month of October and November they were going to close 13 of their centers. So we exited 450. We're going to lose 13 and should add, like I said, 3 to 4 towards the end of the year. So that's it. Next year, I haven't given guidance yet, but again, that 3 to 4 probably makes sense unless unless a company makes a big acquisition or they make a strategic decision, like one of the top 3 plasma companies RFP'd their business, and we were the winners of that. We made that announcement. We have not yet been told how they're going to either give us new centers that they open, transition existing centers over, but things of that nature would accelerate or improve that 3 to 4 per month that we should normally get during a normal course of business. To figure out how much market share we can get, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I was surprised that we could get to 40%. I'd say 45 to 50, but we should continue to, get our fair take. And there's plenty of opportunities out there as new centers continue to open year in and year out.
So I understand that 50 new centers by year. This is it's not a official guidance, but this is the idea, no? Right? 3, 4 per month, right?
Well, three a month would be 36. 4 a month would be 48. You can do the math. So, I think somewhere between 3 and 4. Again, if they open 100 to 120 per year, and we have 40% market share, we should get 40 to 48. It's a math just to maintain our market share, and that's kind of where I feel good talking to people about. There may be opportunities like we had in June, where one of our existing customers were using 3 providers. They consolidated down to 2 providers and ended up moving those centers over to us. So there's always opportunities like that, but I'm comfortable saying 3 to 4 a month.
So is it difficult to increase this market share from this number, right? So it's not the main idea here, right?
Well, I mean, it's a number of. I mean, is it difficult to increase market share? In a meaningful way, I think so. I mean, The thing that's different about us and our main competitor is that we will take and we will be a payment provider for somebody that's just entering the marketplace. They will take one store or two stores or three stores, because we know if they open one, two, three stores in a given year, the following year they may open six, and the year after that they may open 12, and so they'll grow. It just provides a good runway of further growth just from opening those centers. But really, that's just one piece of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle is more donations. We talked
Yeah.
about most of the year up until September 16th, when the government changed the law back and allowed Hispanic individuals that were coming over from Mexico to donate plasma. Before September 16th, the federal government said, nope, you can't give plasma if you have a tourist visa because you're earning compensation. So that was positive. Another thing that we need to come back, the labor market is still very tight. So people aren't going to wait 2 hours to give plasma and then spend another hour and a half to 2 hours giving plasma. So the medical field was really hit hard during COVID. We have heard that it's starting to improve, that labor is starting to improve, but you see the numbers today in the U.S. They announced further wage everybody's having to increase their wages. The plasma companies are having to increase their wages. We're having to increase our wages just to maintain and keep people from leaving. So there was a lot of people that left the job market during COVID. Those people have to come back. So it's not just one thing. I wish I would say, hey, we're going to open X number of plasma centers next year, and boom. It's a combination of things that go into the growth of it.
So this is my second question for you. So I know that you have two drivers of growth. So for the last 3 months, I was reading many articles in Texas, in different cities and areas in the US, and most of them they are increasing the number of donations in most of the areas. So how do you track? Because as me, I suppose that you have a macro scenario for next year, and I think with a high probability, the US economy is going to recession. We don't know if that recession is going to be slightly or deep, but this is good for PaySign, because when I describe your company, I said this is the company that was in the right business at the right moment, because as many people get out of the job, or maybe they reduce his salaries, they used to go to plasma centers because they can win $400, $500 a month. So low income people, who is 50% of the people that goes to donation centers, need this money. So which drivers you are using? Where are you looking to try to think at which growth rate are growing the centers? Because I'm reading the Grifols results and CSL. They are growing in revenue line. They are not growing an EBIT line because they are paying high price compensation. I don't know if you know the price, but I think it's $70-$80, which is really bad for the margins, but not for your company, but it's bad for Grifols and CSL. But how do you track which volume growth can you expect for next year?
Well, so that's a long question, and I'll try to answer it. And if I don't ask another question, ask it again. But if just looking out there, number one, most of the individuals that are giving plasma, and you made a mention of this, are unbanked and underbanked individuals. So they're trying to supplement their income because their wages, because of inflation, wages aren't keeping up with inflation. So I think it's pretty well known. The U.S. is and the world actually right now is under inflationary pressures. The U.S. has tried to do all they can, raising interest rates to cut that inflation down, but we're still running at over 6%, which is abnormally high. The government says they want it to be around 3%, 4%. So I think we'll continue to see a tightening of the market. I think we'll continue to see inflationary pressures that are out there, which hopefully translates into good business, improved business for us. You were right. The average donation rate, I think, hit just over $75 per donation. That was before COVID, around $50 per donation. What happened is companies like CSL and Grifols, and CSL, like I mentioned, is a public company. They came out and said, listen, COVID hit our inventory levels so hard, we are going to have to continue to invest and spend to get our inventory levels back up to pre-COVID all through 2023. So I'm sure, I don't know if Grifols is in the same camp, but the plasma companies and our company was hit extremely hard during COVID because people sat at home. They were given free money from the government. They did not need to go get plasma. That's now flipped. And so hopefully that provides some wind at our sails for all through 2023. I have heard that the Grifols of the world, the CSLs of the world, they were offering like $1,000 incentives. Come give plasma 8 times a month. We'll give you $1,000. I've heard they've cut those incentive payments back as supply has started coming back. And when I say supply, that's people donating plasma. The $50 per donation has not changed. It's just these incentives they've cut back from 1,000 to 500, etc. For us, it doesn't really matter. I tell people if I get one donation and it's $1,000, or I get 10 donations at $100, I still have the $1,000. And the way we make our money off people using the card for spending, that's how I'm going to make my money. So all that I care about is just more money being loaded on the cards, and people going to spend for groceries, gasoline, things of that nature. So I expect that to continue through 2023. As I've mentioned, the wind behind our sails.
There's a big difference with pharma companies because they support the cost inflation, but your company are not supporting that. So here, a main question is, before COVID, the average monthly revenue per plasma center, Jeff, is higher than $9,000. So right now it's 7.4. Can I use this number pre-COVID, so 9,000, as a number that the company can reach if the economy continue to decelerate? So it makes sense to make this rational?
That's a good question. I'm a lot more conservative than a lot of other people, having come from Wall Street and given the history that this company had before I got here. My job is not to overpromise and underdeliver. So I would hope we can get back to those numbers. I don't, it's kind of like the stars will have to align, and labor shortages reduce, go away, and we get back to a normal environment. That being said, before COVID, we had, I don't have it off the top of my head, 280 centers. Now we have 450 centers. As we add more new centers in that denominator, it takes 9 months, 12 months to get a new center ramped up to where it's up to the normal level of the existing center. So, but we have a portfolio of centers. We have like the customer I told you that consolidated 13 centers. Those centers were not doing much, and so they rationalize their cost basis. I think there could be more rationalization that goes along, but we'll see. I'm glad we're back up to the 7,400. We'll see how that transpires throughout this quarter and then into 2023 to get back to that 8,500, 9,000 level. I think is we'll just have to see if the stars align and everything hits like it has been.
I see many tailwinds in your company right now. But I want to remember that 2019 is not a recession year. So maybe we have to go to the financial crisis in 2029 to look how the donation jump, because I checked it before how in this crisis the number of donations jumped one time. So maybe 2019 is not the worst scenario. Is it good for your company? But I like to focus always in these recession times or recession years to look where I can obtain here, right? So okay, so I think the prospects are good. So, but I only want to focus in the cost because the revenue outlook, is it good? Is it growing? The plasma donations are growing, so you are growing your revenue. But I always have the same question with your cost. Can you describe the split of your cost? Which part is variable cost? Which part is fixed cost? And which are the most important costs? Can you describe a little bit?
Sure. So, on the plasma side, it has a much more variable cost component of it than the pharma side. And why is that? Well, because people are using their money to spend at the point of sale. I have to pay um, uh, fees to Visa. Now I do get the interchange from that, but there's a cost component on the other side. People take money off the ATM. I have to pay reverse interchange on that. So these are variable transaction costs that are out there. The more transactions I run, the more I'm having to pay third parties, like my ATM provider down in Mexico. When the Hispanics weren't allowed to cross the border and give plasma, that cost went to relatively zero, $500 a month. Now that cost is back up to 17, 18, $19,000 a month. So that just kind of gives you the idea of that variable component. So with that said, I expect our plasma cost of goods sold to be around that 50 to 55% range. Pharma has is a higher profitability profile because I don't have as many variable costs. We've talked and said, look, we think that pharma, cost of goods sold range is around, 80%. Now, on the SG&A side, my pharma has higher costs than my plasma business, and we've made a lot of investments over 2022 in our platform and our people to support the pharma business, and we will continue to make those investments. We've invested about in the pharma for the last 2.5 years, and we're starting to show some fruits of that labor, and hopefully that will continue into 2023. So if you look at our adjusted EBITDA, I think we exited. I'll have to look last quarter over here. Adjusted EBITDA margin was 18.2%. That was up from 11.3% in Q1 and 10.8% in Q2. So for the full year, we ought to, should come in, 14.5%, 15% of revenue. And then I'm looking for that to continue to grow in 2023. Again, haven't given out guidance, can't really talk about that, but I don't think you're going to see the same investment that we've made as a dollar or percentage base in 2022 that we in 2023 that we made in 2022. And the reason for that is during COVID, we had to cut our investment quite substantially because our business wasn't there. And, we're going to run the business that's the best way for shareholders for long-term value. But when you just don't have any business coming in because the business falls off the table, you obviously have to cut back on that investment. So in 2022, you're seeing investment from 2020 and 2021, and then 2022 normal investment cycle. So 2022 got hit with a lot of investment dollars. Again, hopefully won't see that same dollar amount or percentage in 2023. So, but I got to do more work on the numbers. One of the things that's hitting us, just like everybody else, inflation, salaries are going up. I started the year, my call center salaries are around $15 an hour. Now they're $18 an hour. And we're having to do that because people are able to walk across the parking lot and work at a gas station for $16 an hour, $17 an hour. So this is something that the whole country is dealing with, and which is really causing, inflationary pressures across the board.
I was checking your SG&A as percentage of total revenue, your SG&A expense before COVID. Is it in average across the year? Well, they have some fluctuation across the quarter, but if you take the average at the year end, it's 33%, 35. So with your words, I can say that I cannot expect that you can reduce the SGA expense to these numbers in the next 2 years, right?
Well, let me caution you and everyone on this call here about pre-COVID, like you were saying. Keep in mind that this company reversed over $6 million in revenue in Q3 of 2020. So September of
Yeah.
2020, they reversed 6 million revenue. I tell people anything prior to the third quarter of 2020 is an apples to oranges comparison to anything after. And that had to do with the way the company was booking in breakage revenue. They had a change of estimate in September of 2020. The auditors made them take out some of that revenue. So I just caution people when you're looking at percentages on spend or even margins. I mean, anything other than our pharma revenue, our plasma revenue, anything other than plasma revenue, quarter over quarter, year over year, prior to third quarter of 2020 is an apples to oranges comparison. And we can spend a lot more time on that. We'd spend the next 2 hours going through that, but that's what happened. I tell people, look at Q4 of 2020, and then every period after that, and you will see a more normalized operations from the company. Now, there are times when I mentioned, like at the end of June, where we boarded an abnormally high number of plasma centers that came over from one of our customers who consolidated. That was over 50 centers. I had a lot of costs to get those centers up and running before the end of the quarter. I didn't have a lot of revenue. So I called out and said, hey, you're going to see our inventory levels higher. You're going to see our cash balances lower. You're going to see average revenue per center lower because of the denominator and the math that just is. So when we have anomalies, I call them out just so everybody understands where we're coming from an organization.
Okay, let me show you some questions from the followers. Fran Resio is asking, do you see any possibility of paid plasma in countries like Spain? Because you are working with, for example, with your folks. So if Spain allow people receive money for that, could you work here? So that's a possibility, or maybe in Germany?
There's some barriers to entry in our business and going international. Part of that is getting a bank license, right? Or a special bank license. The company looked at that back in the day. They were going to register as a financial entity in Ireland, I believe, which is part of the EU, which would have given them the ability to issue a card, Visa or MasterCard. So that's not a small undertaking. The thing that's in the U.S. that's somewhat different than Western Europe is that you really have people. It's a recurring business. They're coming twice a week because they can give plasma twice a week, 8 times a month, etc. And you see that. So I think I'm not going to say never. I would never say never. But I think that the economics of serving centers internationally in Europe in particular creates a challenge for businesses like PaySign to do that. But we may look at other countries like Canada or Mexico, etc. If other we're going to follow our customers. So if the plasma centers open up centers in other locations, then I would say that's more possible. But the biggest challenge is, again, being able to issue or being able to offer an open loop debit card for individuals to spend.
I remember that in the last reporting 3/4, I think it's the Mexican people that are allowed to cross the US to donate plasma. So you are consolidating for 1 month, right?
September the 18th is
Yeah,
when the stay
18. Yeah.
September the 18th.
Okay.
So there wasn't a lot of contribution in in the third quarter. We'll see how the fourth quarter
Because
shapes.
Mexican donations could be 20% of revenue, or is it a little bit less?
It's less. I mean, pre-COVID, those are super centers that are down there. We back in the day when I first got here, we disclosed that there were about 37 centers that we had that were down there. We have converted a couple other centers from cash to cash to debit cards since then. So it's still about 10%, a little bit less of our total plasma centers, but those are super centers. They tend to do higher volumes than most of the other centers. So, but it's probably closer to back pre-COVID. Again, it was probably closer to 12 to 15% of revenues, about 10% of the centers.
Okay. And what do you think are the main tailwind and the main risk? So could you talk about both? So which one is the opportunity, but which one is at the same time the risk?
Well, the biggest opportunity we have is the copay business, our pharmaceutical copay business. We are close to breaking even, exiting this year. We've added. We disclosed at the end of last quarter, I think we had 17 programs that are up and running. A lot of the programs are not heavy claims volume programs, meaning that I'm just getting paid, X $1,000s a month to monitor the program or run the program on behalf of the pharmaceutical company or behalf of the hub, and that's fine. That's it's good business, but we would really need to land a program that's doing thousands of claims a month and growing. And like I said, we're finally starting to see the fruits of our labor. Pharmaceutical companies now know who PaySign is. Pharmaceutical companies typically don't move very quickly, but once they do, it's sticky business. So I think the upside for the business and for the stock is the pharmaceutical company, the pharma copay business starting to really ramp up. Now, keep in mind, the legacy pharma business is going away. It's gone effectively November 15th. We disclosed that. So I've got to offset about $1.5 million that's no longer there in 2023 with this new copay business in 2023. So I think plasma will continue to be the majority of our business through 2023 and even 2024. But as the pharma business ramps up, plasma should become less as an overall percentage of the company. Not because plasma is going to go away. Plasma growth will moderate. This past quarter, plasma revenues were up, or total revenues were up 36%. Again, plasma is 90% of our business. But that will start to slow. It still should have some good growth in 2023 because of the wind behind our sails we mentioned earlier in the podcast. But then that's going to get to more of like a 10% grower in 2024 and beyond, and we'll grow in line with our market share and the industry. So that's the upside. And then we're adding other programs. I mentioned the payroll program and the retail program, but we need to add a third leg to the stool, and maybe it's other disbursement programs, whatever. I like the healthcare business. If we can continue to add other healthcare opportunities where people have been distributing cash or checks, I mean, that's great opportunity for us. So that's the opportunity. Risk, really, I mean, it's the same risk everybody always has, that pricing comes down, we lose a big referral partner. Typically these contracts are 2-3 years in length, but I look at City Prepaid. They at one time they own 100% of the market, and let's say they're down to 50 to 55% of the
Jeff, sorry, is it difficult to lose one partner here, because there are 3-4 partners? So it's not. So this is a small business with a small competitor, so it's not easy to lose one customer, right? So
well, I mean, we have more than 3 or 4 customers. We have a lot of plasma customers, a lot of pharma customers.
So I'm talking about providers. So there are not too much providers like PaySign, his competitor.
Yeah, Correct. That is correct. And PaySign has won a lot of the business from the main competitor because what they did is they didn't invest in the business. Maybe poor customer service. They didn't have other products and services that they were offering in addition to a debit card. Like, for example, we offer a pharmacy discount card with every one of our packages that go out. So we add, we have loyalty programs. So there are value added services that we try to use to differentiate ourselves, and we're going to continue to invest and work with our partners to help them retain customers that come in, because their customer acquisition costs are a big cost of their business. And so if we can do anything to help them reduce that customer acquisition cost and have them get repeat business, that's a win-win for everybody. So, but you asked what the risks are. Those are the risks. So you lose a big customer, or the pharma business doesn't pan out the way we expect it to pan out. I'm not able to diversify my business into other areas. It's your typical, finance 101 business risk that every company has. But we should continue to execute, and hopefully, our customers find value in using us as a service partner, and that doesn't, then we're able to continue to protect our business and grow.
I was thinking if in 2011 this business was a monopoly. So if PaySign has the opportunity to buy one competitor or two competitors, that's possible. So do you think that the regulator allows your company to has 80-90% of the market? That's possible.
That would be. I think the Federal Trade Commission would not be on board with that. But there are other opportunities to add a third leg through either de novo or an acquisition. Now the problem is that I feel like, what do you want me to go to buy the company with? I mean, it'd be like me going to a gunfight with a knife. I've got my stock price is depressed. I've got no debt on my balance sheet, which is good, but I also have $8 million of unrestricted cash, and we'll continue to build that cash balance. But it's going to have to be the right company at the right time, and for shareholders like me and for our CEO who owns 20% of the business, for us to be saying, listen, we're willing to take the dilution because it would be dilutive. We're willing to take dilution because this is a third leg of the stool that has a moat, has high barriers to entry that we can build the rest of our business around, and we have synergies that we can make it work. And then it's a better, longer term play for shareholders and for PaySign. That's what would have to happen.
Okay, there are some questions related. Why not to buy back shares when the stock price goes at the minimum at the start of this year?
Well, at the start of the year, I didn't have $8 million in cash. The cash balance went down during COVID. We were still just coming out of COVID, and we've been able to build back our cash balance, and I think we should continue to add to that. Share purchases are obviously a source or a use of cash that we may look at from time to time. We're going to try to do what's best we can to really get the highest return for our shareholders, and whether that's an M&A, whether that's share repurchases, or whatever, then we will do that. So that's all I can say about share repurchase.
Okay. I know that you have 45 minutes, so if you want to conclude with small words, Jeff.
No, I appreciate everybody's interest in PaySign. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season with their families, and thank you very much for your interest.
Okay, thank you, Jeff, to come to the channel. And this idea is maybe Spanish and Latin American YouTube followers can start to follow your company, right?
I hope so. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Jeff. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bueno, espero que os haya gustado. En este caso, la entrevista estaba pactada en un máximo de 45 minutos porque tenía otro evento. No siempre nos podemos extender una hora en los directos o 1 hora y media. Repito, este espacio, ya sé que pueden haber compañías que son más interesantes en redes sociales, pero también hay que ver en el escenario macroeconómico en el que nos movemos y no tratar, como siempre explico, de jugar. Es decir, esta crisis ha servido para ver que todo aquel que juega una carta, como puede ser pues, compañías de alto crecimiento o compañías compounders, debe estar dispuesto a soportar momentos como el actual. Entonces, tiene sentido en una cartera, aunque tenga un sesgo de crecimiento, tenga un sesgo de compounders, que al final también, pues yo como inversor profesional es lo que busco, sí que tiene sentido introducir algunos activos que se puedan beneficiar de la situación macro que vamos transitando. ¿No? Es por eso que me ha parecido pues, interesante traer, en este caso, el director financiero de PaySign, porque creo que el entorno es propicio en el año 23 para que uno de sus negocios, que es el segmento de plasma, fijaros que no hemos hablado del segmento de farma, o sí que lo ha comentado Jeff, pero no he tratado de indagar ahí. Tanto el segmento de copago, que es el de farma, como el segmento de tarjetas corporate, yo no lo estoy valorando en la valoración que habéis visto alguna vez dentro del club de inversión. Repito, esto es a nivel educativo y simplemente es mi cálculo. Vosotros tenéis que hacer vuestro propio cálculo, pero tiene sentido pensar en aquellas compañías que se puedan beneficiar en el entorno en el que estamos, ¿no? Hay un sector que es el gran beneficiado, que es el sector del petróleo, y evidentemente han sido probablemente las únicas compañías que han dado rentabilidad positiva este año. Pero, de hecho, PaySign lleva una rentabilidad en los 6 meses, en el año, también muy aceptable. Y a veces tiene sentido buscar aquellas compañías que dentro de una cartera de activos de calidad, de crecimiento, compounders, tanto en grandes compañías como en pequeñas, pues pueden aportar una diversificación interesante. Por tanto, repito, en este caso una idea algo más especulativa si queréis, una compañía microcap, 150 millones de market cap. Por tanto, vamos a ver cómo evoluciona. No sé si alguien tiene alguna pregunta antes de que cerremos la emisión. Hoy no me quiero extender muchísimo. Las entrevistas deberían durar en torno a 1 hora y veo que llevamos los 52 minutos. Por tanto, estamos en tiempo. Peri nos comenta, si lo he visto, solo le supone un 5 o 6% del sector farmacéutico. Esta compañía tuvo que hacer una reclasificación contable de las ventas que se daba en el sector farmacéutico, porque, como ya sabéis, mucha gente habló de fraude. El fraude no es eso, nunca vamos a detectar el fraude, sacaros de la cabeza. Lo que podemos detectar es contabilidad más agresiva o menos agresiva. Pero las compañías, la contabilidad permite reconocer activos y pasivos, reconocer ingresos y gastos de forma subjetiva. No hay una regla estricta. Entonces, las compañías pueden reconocer, repito, sus ingresos, sus gastos, sus activos y sus pasivos de diferentes formas. Y eso te puede llevar a tener que hacer una reclasificación, a tener que ajustar tus estados financieros. Evidentemente, si eso hubiera sido en el segmento principal del plasma, pues eso hubiera sido un problema para mí, pero estamos hablando de una división más pequeña, una división que ya empezó antes del negocio del plasma. En todo caso, mi análisis, mi valoración se centra en el negocio del plasma. Gracias a vosotros por estar conectados como siempre. Siempre pregunto en Twitter que si os gustaría que trajéramos. Ya sé que pues os gustan los CEOs de las compañías que algunos canales hablan, ¿no? Por eso pues la entrevista en Agarro fue tan vista. Por eso pregunto siempre en Twitter, pues, qué CEOs, CFOs os gustaría que traigásemos. Por tanto, dejadlo en los comentarios del vídeo. O bien también me lo podéis comentar por Twitter. Y ya sabéis que tenéis abierta la matrícula al curso 10K. Es un curso que está teniendo mucho éxito para aquellos que quieran aprender pues, a entender perfectamente toda la información que aparece en un informe 10K. La verdad es que estoy bastante sorprendido de la demanda que está habiendo. Por tanto, cualquier persona que tenga interés, que quiera preguntar, pues puede contactar conmigo a través del email, curso@dracoglobal.es, a través de los comentarios de los vídeos de YouTube, a través de Twitter, a través de la WhatsApp, de la página web de Draco Global. Tenéis muchas vías, pues por el que tenga interés, preguntarme todo aquello que quiera, ¿vale? También os quería comentar que está abierta la prelista para la 4ª edición del curso avanzado que empezará en abril, y la he abierto porque he recibido mucha demanda a través de emails de gente que se quería inscribir. Mi intención no era abrir la prelista tan temprano, pero me he visto obligado a abrirla ante pues, la demanda. Por tanto, si alguien tiene claro que quiere hacer el curso, le invitaría a que se apunte a la prelista, porque este es un curso con plazas limitadas. Aquí no hay 200 alumnos ni 100 alumnos. Por tanto, si alguien lo tiene claro, le invito a que se apunte a esta lista, porque los que se apunten en la prelista van a tener prioridad sobre el resto. Por tanto, tendrán un par de días donde podrán matricularse, y si se agotan las plazas, pues nadie más se podrá matricular. Dicho esto, terminamos con las preguntas, repasando si hay alguna más. Este jueves, en principio, vamos a hablar más de tema macro. Hace tiempo que no hablamos de macro, por tanto, haremos un directo más de macro. Juan Barrios pregunta, ¿tienes fecha para el curso grabado de valoración? Es un proyecto, o sea, esto no está aún creado. Igual me escuchaste en algún directo que lo comenté, pero al igual que el curso 10K es uno de los 5 o 6 bloques que hay dentro del curso avanzado, pues puede ser que saque otro bloque, y en este caso sería el bloque de valoración, con un formato muy parecido al curso 10K. Pero es algo que no está hecho, pero que mi intención podría ser que estuviera pues, en los próximos 2 meses, siempre que tenga tiempo para ello. ¿Vale? Por tanto, Juan, hoy no es posible hacer eso. Vamos a ver si antes del próximo curso avanzado, abril 23, pues lo tengo. Viendo el interés que hay por el curso de 10K, pues probablemente sea interesante también sacar este bloque, y probablemente será el único. No creo que saque más bloques en este nuevo formato de vídeo. No sé si alguien tiene alguna pregunta más, alguna sugerencia, alguna propuesta de vídeo, de directo, de entrevista a compañía. He contactado con Cakebox para tratar de traer al CEO. A veces de forma directa es complicada, pero siempre hay atajos, y evidentemente la experiencia, al final llevo más de 20 años hablando con equipos directivos, pues hay muchas formas de llegar al CEO o al CFO para que te conceda una entrevista. Eso es difícil porque al final pues es un canal pequeño, es un canal de nicho, pero bueno, poco a poco pues va creciendo. Y probablemente en próximos directos os daré una noticia que me ha hecho mucha ilusión, pero que aún no quiero anticipar porque aún no lo puedo hacer. Por tanto, cuando lo pueda anunciar, pero me ha resultado muy interesante, y lo que me dice es que estamos en el buen camino, y aunque seamos un canal de YouTube de nicho muy pequeño, pues compañías muy, muy importantes americanas se fijan en lo que estamos haciendo en el canal. Por tanto, en cuanto pueda, pues os lo comentaré y seguro que os va a gustar. Juan Barrios, muchas gracias por el esfuerzo de tirar para adelante con este canal de tanta calidad. Muchas gracias, Juan. El canal sin vosotros pues no sería nada. Emi, hola, espero no molestar con esta pregunta. ¿Por qué dejaste de gestionar las SICAP? Porque con el cambio regulatorio de las SICAPs en julio del 21, pues muchos bancos ya no aceptaban inversiones en SICAP. Yo no sé si el próximo año el gobierno español pues va a decidir que ahora, en vez de 100 accionistas de 2.500 euros, sean 5.000. Por tanto, para evitar cualquier tipo de problema regulatorio o reputacional con las SICAPs, pues decidí que no era el vehículo para seguir gestionando. Esto es lo que te puedo decir hoy. Ya he dicho que próximamente pues anunciaré mis planes. De momento pues aún no puedo comentar nada. Por tanto, Emi, espero haberte respondido a tu pregunta. 1 minuto más, 2 minutos más para alguna pregunta más. Tenemos tiempo hasta la hora, si queréis. A ver, Fran Recio había preguntado no sé qué, no acabo de entender lo que ponía. Steven F. Mayer, no sé exactamente a qué te refieres. Ha habido alguna pregunta más que no le he pasado a Jeff porque ya le había respondido. Le preguntaba a Peri. Concretamente, Peri preguntaba si pues, el segmento de farma se podía beneficiar y podía ser una oportunidad a largo plazo. Lo ha respondido, ha dicho que sí, pero ya os digo yo que ese negocio nació mucho antes que el negocio de plasma. Entonces, a mí por ahora me cuesta incluirlo en la valoración. Muy bien, pues si no hay más preguntas, espero que os haya gustado. Repito, este jueves, la idea es traer a hablar de macro, y la próxima semana tendremos 2 directos muy interesantes. Uno con Carlos Mata, que me parece que es uno de los análisis que se puede leer, aunque lo haga en inglés, de mucha calidad en sector de commodities y petróleo. Por eso lo traigo al canal, al igual que Antonio Linares en sector tecnología. Mi intención es traer a los que yo pienso que son los que mejor analizan compañías, y sobre todo en sectores, en modelos de negocio en el cual yo no me fijo tanto, como puede ser pues el segmento de alto crecimiento que analiza muy bien Antonio Linares, y también el segmento de commodities, de deep cyclicals, que analiza muy bien Carlos Mora, ¿no? Por tanto, la idea es atraer pues sinergias, ¿no? Conocimientos al canal. Comenta Fran, el nuevo presidente ejecutivo de Grifols, ¿vale? Sí, no, perdona, no recordaba el nombre, pero igualmente no veo que has preguntado. No sé si venía a colación de otra pregunta, pero bueno, creo que ya hemos hablado bastante de Grifols en otros directos y la tesis de inversión está clara, simplemente requiere de paciencia, pero viendo la evolución en ventas de Grifols, de PaySign, lo único que necesita Grifols es pagar menor precio a los donantes. Es decir, en vez de pagar 80, 90 dólares por donación o 100 en algunos centros, pues pagar 50, 60 como antes de la COVID. Hasta que eso no sea así, los márgenes operativos no van a crecer y no se van a entrevistar. Entrevistar al equipo directivo de Grifols es bastante complicado, ya lo he probado, pero bueno, hay compañías más abiertas y otras compañías menos abiertas. Muchas veces me preguntan por qué no entrevisto a CEOs españoles y os parecerá que es extraño, pero muchas veces me es más fácil traer a un CEO internacional, a un CEO americano, aunque no os lo creáis, que a un CEO español. Ya me pasaba a mí cuando yo en el año 2004 pues era gestor de bolsa española y mi trabajo era pues hablar con los directivos españoles. No sé por qué, pero a veces me es más complicado hablar con directivos que están más cercanos que no con directivos que están pues muy lejos, ¿no? Pero bueno, seguiremos intentándolo. He contactado con 2 CEOs y CFOs de compañías españolas que me gustaría entrevistar, pero pues cuando acepten pues lo iremos haciendo. En todo caso, seguiremos con estas entrevistas, tanto a CEOs como inversores, como gente que sea interesante, y sobre todo ahora pues que voy a tener un periodo temporal, 1 o 2 meses, pues donde tendré más tiempo, por tanto mi intención es contribuir más al canal. Bueno, me despido, espero que os haya gustado. Por favor, suscribiros al canal, dejar vuestros comentarios, darles like, retuitear este contenido en redes sociales si las tenéis, hablar del canal, ayudarme a hacerlo crecer, porque cuanto más crezca, pues mayor poder tendré de negociación con los CEOs, con los CFOs para que vengan a hablar. Parece sencillo traer aquí a Jeff Baker a hablar, pero no es tan sencillo como parece. Entonces, todo pasa por tratar de crecer más. Entonces, ellos también querrán venir al canal porque muchas de estas compañías son totalmente desconocidas en Europa y estas compañías, por ejemplo, esta compañía nunca ha hecho un Investors Day fuera de Estados Unidos. Yo creo que nunca ha ido tampoco al Reino Unido, por tanto, ni mucho menos habrá ido pues a Frankfurt, a Milán o a Madrid. Por tanto, creo que es interesante que un canal del sur de España, en este caso en España, pues traiga compañías que no son conocidas. Y yo creo que, pues, ya que muchos de vosotros estáis en España, pero también estáis en Latinoamérica, pues mi intención es que este canal sea el hub para que los inversores españoles o del sur de Europa y también los latinoamericanos pues puedan preguntar directamente a CEOs de compañías internacionales. Hemos hecho ya bastantes entrevistas. Quiero recordar que hemos entrevistado a Eric Stenfors de Hansa Holding, hemos entrevistado a Patrick de Souza de Water Intelligence, hemos entrevistado a Manas Fuloria de Nagarro, hemos entrevistado hoy a Jeff Baker de PaySign, me estoy olvidando uno, entrevistamos a G5 Entertainment, no recuerdo ahora, no me sale el nombre, no me viene a la cabeza. Por tanto, llevamos 5 o 6 entrevistas y ya os anticipo que tengo 2 más cerradas, pero probablemente ya serán para el próximo año, ¿vale? Por tanto, bueno, me despido, suscribiros, espero que os haya gustado y nos vemos en principio este jueves para el directo exclusivo de macroeconomía, donde vamos a comentar pues, el entorno cómo está y vamos a contar este dato de inflación mejor que ha salido pues, hoy a las 2:30. Por tanto, un saludo a todos, buenas noches.